Alright everyone, welcome back. XDefiant is a new free-to-play FPS game from Ubisoft and has been in the works for a number of years. On February 16th, a new cross-play test went live until February 19th, and fortunately, I was able to get a code and check it out. The test is under NDA, which prohibits me from sharing any footage of the test, but I am able to provide a commentary on the test. It's worth mentioning as well, the game is in pre-alpha at this stage. Today I want to give you my feedback on my experience with the game, the good and the bad, with an overall recommendation at the end. Of course, this is all subject to change as the game is not yet complete. Drop a like, subscribe, and let's get into it. XDefiant is a game that I've been watching closely for some time now, with the promise of no skill-based matchmaking, a fast-paced arena shooter, crossplay, and many other inviting elements. XDefiant looked to be going back to basics in the FPS genre, which had me and many others excited. Like so many, I've about had enough of skill-based matchmaking, where every match feels like a pro tournament, a system that actively discourages you from trying to improve in order to protect those players who are perhaps not up to your skill level yet. When I was growing up, there was no skill-based matchmaking. You start a new game, you get rolled over, but through persistence and experience, you would eventually learn the maps, you would learn how to use the guns and where to be and all that sort of stuff, and you would eventually become the steamroller, and the cycle continued. I guess skill-based matchmaking just shows how the world has changed, and I for one was most excited for this not to be in XDefiant, and I'll tell you what, it feels awesome. You know, some games you would feel invincible, and that felt great, and then others you'd feel like you'd never played the game before, and there would be a real challenge. The variety and competition made every game feel different, and I'm not averse to a challenge, but having no skill-based matchmaking gives you the best of both worlds. In fact, I decided to go back and play Modern Warfare 2 during my test session and just kind of see the difference. So I started my first game up, I got jump shot, 360 dolphin dived around a corner with a sniper, and that was it. I decided to quit out immediately. Went straight back to playing XDefiant. If you miss the casual FPS experience not offered by so many of the most recent FPS games, XDefiant is going to be the one for you. And before I go any further, skills-based matchmaking is such a huge problem for me that even though, as you will hear shortly, XDefiant is so basic and generic in so many ways, I would not hesitate to drop Modern Warfare 2, my go-to FPS game right now, and play XDefiant instead if it dropped today in its current state. So I just mentioned that XDefiant feels generic. That might not be a bad thing for many of you, and it's not a huge issue for me either, but I would like to have seen some kind of innovation. But XDefiant doesn't really deliver here. There are no new game modes that I haven't seen before in other first-person shooter games. Control these zones, export this package, all of that sort of stuff. We've seen it all before. There were a very limited amount of weapons. I don't know if that's because the game is in pre-alpha or not, and more are coming. In terms of attachments for those weapons, there were very few, and each one had, a very generic set of stats. The gunplay itself feels like it's straight out of 2010. Each character, I believe there were 4 or 5, had their own unique kind of set of talents, and then they'd have like a super talent as it was, but none of them felt like they were fresh or new. That's not to say that they didn't work with the game, because they absolutely did. They just didn't feel like something that I hadn't seen before. Again, the game feels like it's very old school, which actually isn't a bad thing. And I think this is what XDefiant is actually going for. If you played COD 4, if you played Black Ops 1 back in the day, and are fed up with how FPS games seem to change things for no reason whatsoever, just in the sake, for the sake of innovation, even though those changes actually make the game worse, Modern Warfare 2, and I'm looking at you, you're going to love XDefiant. This game is going to appeal to a much older demographic than perhaps the COD franchise, and that's actually a good thing in my opinion. As I said before, this game is in pre-alpha. I was playing on Xbox, and I'm not going to hold this against the devs because I'm sure they'll fix it, but every 10 minutes my game would crash to the dashboard. The devs did address this on Twitter multiple times before it did become very frustrating for me, to the point that I had to stop playing when it kept happening every time I joined the game. Now, I'm confident the devs will fix this issue, but I do need to include that here because it was a big issue for me. The other issue I found was aim assist. Sometimes I was able to beam enemies and it felt like the aim assist worked, but other times it felt like it failed and my shots would just be all over the place. It never felt consistent. XDefiant does have a feature where you can change how strong or how weak you want the aim assist to be, and I did try playing with that, but it didn't make any difference at all. Other than that, I didn't come across any other technical issues at all, and the game ran really smooth when I was able to play. So yeah, really great job there. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the time to kill, as I know this was something that I'd seen others talk about in their own videos and in feedback as well. The time to kill reminds me of Black Ops 4, and I was actually very happy about that. Unlike Modern Warfare 2, where it feels like you're dead as soon as you see someone, with the fast-paced kind of gunplay in XDefiant and the speed at which you enter and retreat from fights, being shot first in XDefiant, it doesn't automatically mean it's a death sentence. You will have a chance to fire back or try and get out of there or get into cover, whatever it is. Gunfights, they feel like a fight, allowing more skilled players to overcome weaker opponents even if they are seen or shot at first. There is a skill gap here due to the higher time to kill, and that is something I'm very happy about. For anyone concerned as well, I will say this, that time to kill might be too high. Again, this is something that I've seen from people say the time to kill is too high in this game. I can assure you that once I swapped out from my M4A1 assault rifle to the MP7 and I got close to my enemies, the time to kill was actually really, really quick. So yeah, it can feel quite like long. It can feel like time to kill is a bit too long, but actually it allows you to have gunfights rather than just I see you first, you're dead, basically. Also, headshots, they decrease the time to kill dramatically, which again allows for a pretty significant skill gap. Now, before I give you my recommendation to end the video, what I wanted to add is when I first joined the test and I started playing, I didn't actually enjoy my experience. In fact, I was watching one of Rogue Goat's videos and I said to him that I wasn't enjoying it, but I kept playing it, and slowly but surely I started to really enjoy myself for all the reasons that I mentioned above. I can only think that because I'm so used to playing the more modern FPS games, stepping back 10 years with XDefiant, it felt odd and it felt old. However, after some time, this dissipated and the game started to feel actually really great. Yeah, it doesn't have the finesse or perhaps the graphics or, the snappy gunplay from Modern Warfare 2, but XDefiant is exactly what the doctor ordered. It's a fast-paced arena shooter with no skill-based matchmaking, a significant skill gap, cross-play, and it encompasses the best of old-school FPS games with some slightly modern takes. And did I mention as well that it's free? XDefiant is going to be my go-to FPS game based on what I've played, and it appears the devs are really taking on board all of the feedback, so expect the game to be much better when it finally launches. My recommendation would be to download this game for free when it launches and give it your time. I'm confident that you won't be disappointed if you enjoyed old school FPS games. If, however, you like Modern Warfare 2, you like skill-based matchmaking, and you like all of the modern takes on first-person shooter games, you may not like this game. But if you're like me and miss Black Ops 1 or miss COD 4 and all the old school games, you are going to enjoy this game, I'm sure of that. But that's it for today's video. Thanks very much for watching, and until the next one, Epic out.